And so I'm gonna be honest with you. I am extremely happy that Will is finally waking up and seeing this for who she is.
Will then went on a profane tirade warning Chris not to mention his wife's name. Jada couldn't believe what she was hearing.
What is going on? Now, first of all, I'm really shocked because, mind you, I'm not there. We haven't called each other husband and wife in a long time. I'm like, what is going on right now?
My wife's name
out of your mouth, right? And I'm like, but now I'm really worried for Will because I don't know what's going on.
What viewers did not see at the time, while Oscar clips were being shown, was Chris Rock leaning over the stage to talk to Jada.
And Chris looks to me and he says, Jada, I meant no harm.
Nobody saw this coming. Or maybe everybody did, but nobody wanted to say it out loud. For years, people whispered about what really happened behind closed doors between August Alsina and Jada Pinkett Smith. Some called it love, some called it healing, others called it straight-up disrespect dressed up as honesty. But one thing was always missing: August's side of the story in full, unfiltered detail, until now. Because when August finally opened his mouth, it wasn't about romance, it wasn't about passion, it wasn't even about regret. It was about feeling used, misled, and emotionally drained by someone who had far more power, fame, and control than he ever did. And that's when the narrative started to flip.
I actually sat down with Will and had a conversation due to the transformation from their marriage to life partnership that they've spoken on several times, and it, not involving romanticism. He gave me his blessing, and I totally gave myself to that relationship for years of my life.
What if August wasn't the villain people made him out to be? What if he didn't steal another man's wife, but instead walked into a situation that was already broken? And what if, after everything he went through, the love, the promises, the public embarrassment, he reached a point where he had no choice but to walk away? Because according to August, smashing Jada wasn't the hard part. Leaving her was. August Alsina didn't grow up with silver spoons or Hollywood safety nets. His life started in pain, and it never really slowed down. He was raised in New Orleans, surrounded by loss, instability, and trauma before most kids even understood what trauma meant. Death followed his family closely. Violence was normal. Survival came first.
Like, I can't force Will to do anything.
And you and Will weren't together.
We weren't together as, we were family. I was there with him as family, but we weren't together at that time.
Music became his escape. Singing wasn't a hobby, it was therapy. It was the only place he could put his hurt without being judged. And when his career finally took off, people saw the talent, the vulnerability, and the emotion in his voice. What they didn't see was how broken he still was underneath the fame. August battled serious health issues, including autoimmune disease that left him hospitalized and exhausted. He dealt with depression, addiction rumors, and the constant pressure to be strong when his body and mind were begging him to slow down.
The PR of it all, the life partnership is not working. He has a woman that he's in love with, and she is not Black. And he is now talking to lawyers. The issue, and so he is setting up to divorce Jada.
He was young, hurting, and searching for stability. And then he met Jada. At first, it looked harmless. She was older, wiser, nurturing. She positioned herself as someone who understood pain, someone who could guide him. She spoke the language of healing, spirituality, and self-discovery. To a young man who'd never really been taken care of, that kind of attention felt like safety. But here's the twist. What started as comfort slowly turned into something much more complicated. Jada wasn't just someone to talk to. She became emotionally intimate. Deep conversations turned into closeness. Closeness turned into boundaries being crossed. And before August fully understood what was happening, he was involved in a relationship that would change the course of his life forever.
Dear Will Smith, someone has to say it. Jada don't want you no more. You know, when she bought the farm in Maryland and she decided that that was going to be her thing, you should have left her right here in the good state of Maryland. Let me tell you why. I think Jada married Will because obviously he was like a great catch, right? It's Will Smith. He's on the precipice of being this major superstar. He accomplishes all of those things. And I think she was pressured from family and friends and outside influences. I don't think it's what Jada wanted to do. Jada is not happy with herself. I think now that she's promoting her book Worthy and she's getting more in depth about her relationship with Tupac that was platonic. But at one point he did ask her to marry him. She turned him down. So then he friend zoned her. I think that's one of the biggest regrets of her life. And so Will is paying for all of that because Jada picked her second choice. Or, you know what I'm saying? Like, he's a consolation prize. Like, okay, I'll take Will.
According to August, he didn't feel like he was sneaking around. He believed everything was known. He believed Will had given his blessing. He believed this was an open situation, not an affair. And that belief made all the difference, because it allowed August to give his heart freely. He wasn't just smashing, he was falling. But what August didn't realize at the time was that he wasn't just dating Jada the woman. He was dating Jada the brand, Jada the image, Jada the protected half of one of Hollywood's most powerful couples. And once things started to go left, he was always going to be the one left exposed.
And so I'm gonna be honest with you. I am extremely happy that Will is finally waking up and seeing this for who she is.
When the relationship ended, August was shattered. He lost more than a partner. He lost the illusion of security. He lost trust. He lost emotional balance. Meanwhile, Jada went right back into her carefully controlled public narrative, sitting at Red Table Talk and reshaping the story. And that's where everything exploded. When Jada publicly called their relationship an entanglement, it minimized what August felt was real love. One word erased years of emotional investment. One word turned him into a joke. One word made the world laugh at something that nearly destroyed him. But here's what nobody expected. August didn't lash out immediately. He held it in. He watched himself get dragged online. He watched people question his masculinity, his honesty, and his sanity. And he stayed quiet until he couldn't anymore. When August finally spoke, he wasn't angry. He was hurt. He explained how deeply he loved Jada, how he gave her everything he had, and how the aftermath left him broken. He admitted that he had been vulnerable, open, and honest in a situation that didn't protect him the same way. And once time passed, clarity came with it. That's when August realized something painful. Jada didn't lose anything. He lost everything. She kept her family, her platform, her public sympathy. He was left with questions, criticism, and silence. And that's when August did the hardest thing of all. He walked away. Not because the sex stopped, not because the feelings disappeared, but because staying meant continuing to shrink himself for someone who could always rewrite the story later. Dumping Jada wasn't dramatic. It wasn't loud. It wasn't messy. It was quiet. It was personal. And it was necessary. August started to see how the situation had drained him emotionally, how it distracted him from healing his body and mind, how it locked him into someone else's dysfunction instead of forcing him to deal with his own pain. And once he stepped back, he saw the truth clearly. He was never meant to stay. The relationship wasn't built on equal power. It wasn't built on protection. It wasn't built for longevity. It was built in a moment of chaos, and chaos never lasts forever. Emotionally, the impact lingered for years. August struggled to trust people. He questioned his worth. He questioned his judgment. He had to rebuild his identity outside of being that guy connected to someone else's marriage. Professionally, the scandal followed him everywhere. Interviews turned into interrogations. Music releases were overshadowed by gossip. His pain became entertainment, for people who never cared about his health in the first place. And privately, it forced him to grow up fast. He learned that being vulnerable without boundaries can destroy you, that not everyone who speaks about healing wants to help you heal, and that sometimes being chosen doesn't mean being valued. But here's the part that really hits hard. August didn't come out of this bitter. He came out honest. He accepted his role. He owned his mistakes. But he also stopped taking responsibility for someone else's choices. And in doing that, he finally freed himself from a story that wasn't truly his to carry. Jada moved on. The world moved on. But August emerged wiser, quieter, and more guarded, no longer chasing validation, no longer explaining himself to people who never listened. And that's why his revelations matter. Not because of who he slept with, but because of what it taught him. At the end of the day, this wasn't about smashing a famous woman. It was about a young man learning the hard way that love without balance is dangerous, that intimacy without accountability leaves scars, and that walking away doesn't always mean you lost. Sometimes walking away is the first time you actually win. August Alsina didn't dump Jada out of spite. He dumped the illusion. And once the illusion was gone, he finally had room to heal, to grow, and to tell his truth on his own terms. So the real question isn't whether August was wrong for getting involved. The real question is, how many people are still stuck in situations just like that, afraid to leave because they confused emotional attachment with love? Because if this story proves anything, it's this. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do isn't staying loyal to someone else's chaos. It's choosing yourself. And that's a lesson August Alsina paid for with pain, silence, and years of misunderstood truth. But in the end, he walked away, standing taller than ever.